Good morning and welcome to the SC250 American Revolution Grant Program Orientation Briefing. We are going to cover a lot of ground today, but a lot of this is stuff you already know. We just want to make sure you know before you start spending your money. So I'm going to share my screen and get started with a PowerPoint. And let's see if I can get this thing going. All right. Can everybody see the PowerPoint? Excellent. Okay, so we have on here Amy Hood, as I mentioned, who is our coordinator who's standing by for your questions, but we're going to jump right in. I want to say first, congratulations. We are excited to have, we're up to over 70 grants issued this year. Represents over $1.2 million in grant awards. So it's exciting stuff happening all over our state. Thank you for all the heavy lifting that y'all do on the ground. And we are here to help you make that happen and be by your side to make sure that everything goes the way you want it to go. So we want to say that the first thing you're going to need to do is sign a grant agreement or a contract. And I know most of y'all are waiting for those to come your way. They do have to be cleared through our attorneys who are on our board. So we will have those contracts hopefully shortly. Then we will send those out to you with instructions on how to sign them. I'll also demo that when we get to our demo section today and go into web grants. So you will have to have a state vendor number. I think I have that for most of you, but if you've not gotten one, make sure that you have your state vendor number ready, and I will provide a link to that in the email that I send as a follow-up to this session. Now, we also want to let everybody know, and make sure you're muted unless if you're on today with us. So the distribution will come out as 80% of your grant award will come to you directly as soon as we finish this contract and get it through Department of Archives and History. This may be a little delayed because of the end of the fiscal year, but shortly after, we should have that moving again after July 1. The final 20% will be submitted when you submit your final paperwork. That includes all of those receipts. And we're going to talk about and demo that final report so you know what all you need to be collecting along the way. So we're spending the people's money, so we want to make the most of it and be as transparent as possible. And that's basically what we're talking about today. And in order to make sure everything's on target, we do have some reports that are required throughout your grant window. So the status report is the first thing. This will be due on November 15th, just an update. It's like 3 questions. How much have you spent? Do you have any challenges? Do you have any successes? Where do you need help moving forward? Do you need to change any of your scope or once you've gotten into it? There'll be questions like that on your status report. If you do need to request a contract amendment, you can do that at that time, and I'll demo that as well today. Now, that's a report that you guys fill out by November 15th. The second report that will go in your file will be what we call, quote unquote, a site visit. This does not necessarily mean that it will be a visit to your location. This is probably going to be a phone call or a WebEx meeting just to check in. Where do you need help? Can we help you with anything along the way? So just a reminder that that does not have to be completed by you, and that will be something that the staff will complete sometime between now and February 15th. And again, these are no later than dates, so if you wanted to submit something earlier for your status report or your final report, if you get everything done, go ahead and submit that final report so you can get that last 20% of your grant. The final report does include financial receipts, proof of your deliverables that are in your contract, any copies of marketing that you did along the way, because we want to brag on things that are happening. We want to make sure our community gets excited about what's going on in South Carolina during these anniversary years. And we want to talk about that measurement of success. And this includes trying to capture as much of the number of people that are served. So if you try to do that along the way, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute. So the status report, final report completed by you. The site visit update is completed by the staff. And if you do, one exception I will say is you may not have a May 15th deadline if you have already communicated to me that your grant process, your project would not be completed by then. So look to your contract to see when your final date is, and it'll say work has to be done between these dates. And that final date will be your deadline for your final report. Again, you could submit it earlier, but you may have a different date. Most, though, on this quarter will have a May 15th of 2024 deadline. All right, so all of this is completed inside our Web Grants program. So many of you have seen your contract area. You'll be going into the contract to sign it officially in the system. So you've got your contract, you've got your status reports, you've got your contract amendments, can all be filled out here in Web Grants. Big, big, big. Make sure you're saving your receipts. One of our previous attendees suggested a camscanner.com. You can download this free app where you can scan items, and she was keeping all of her receipts that way, so that little piece of paper doesn't get gone, and already has everything scanned in. So that's a best practice to collect them as you go. And this also means collecting receipts for your matching funds, demonstrating that if matching funds are required for your grant, make sure that you're documenting that those matching funds have been spent. The other two things, some of you may have admin administrative hours in your budget. Not a lot of you do, but if you do, that overhead administrative hours do have to be documented. So make sure you're documenting those hours. Also, if you have a travel reimbursement as part of your budget, you do have to document that travel as well. And we have forms for both of those. So there's some sample ones on our website, and I'll show you where to find those. But we want to make sure you can also use your own. Just make sure you're tracking those two things if they are included in your budget. So the other thing you'll be doing in your final report is documenting those deliverables. And I can't stress enough to make sure before you sign the contract, you read your contract. Well, again, I work for a lot of lawyers, so they are looking for some deliverables that may not be in your original application. And a lot of times this would be something added like a how-to template. So if you're doing a program in your community, how would we replicate this across the state? So a simple how do you got this done template that could be shared may be added as one of your deliverables in your contract. So make sure you review those before you sign off on it. And again, it will spell out those deliverables that you're going to be held to in that contract. So make photos at events. We encourage you to do so, and of items purchased. So this is a great way, again, to do that publicity, but also to document your deliverables. And save those tear sheets for all the advertising. It should be digital or scanned, but you can, those quote unquote tear sheets, as we used to call them, from your local paper, or you could even do a snapshot of your social media. So there's lots of things you can be documenting your deliverables with. And measurement of success. So this will also be spelled out in your contract. So again, review and make sure you're keeping up with your demographics, who is served by this grant. If it's an event, that's obviously more easy to do. But if you're having a strategic planning meeting, document who all's there, any other ideas of how it's being served if you're going into schools, how many students got to see the program, that kind of thing. Also gather that social media interaction. If you have Google Analytics for your website, if you create a new website as part of your grant, or a new web page to demonstrate your new project on your website, and you do QR codes on your interpretive sign or anything like that, remember those are great ways to measure success. And look back at your measurement of success in your contract to determine what those items are that you need to be tracking. And of course, you can do feedback both conversationally or a formal survey, as some people have done. So what if you get into the nitty-gritty of it and you find out, oh, I really didn't need to allocate that here, I needed to spend that money here. If you are changing between allocations, that doesn't mean each line item, but if you're changing from maybe contractual and you want to spend that money on marketing, so you're moving it down to other, then and it's more than a 10% change in the distribution of funds from the categories, then you do have to get that cleared by SC250 first. I've never seen one turned down, but it is just good to keep us in the loop and get that officially approved. Scope of work, sometimes we've had to tweak our scope of work. Sometimes we've had to, mainly it's looking at our timeline, those who need a little extra time to complete everything. So if that comes up, that is okay. But we do need you to make a formal contract amendment, and I encourage you to put those in well in advance of your status reports, because we have to get those approved technically before the status report is due. And a lot of people this last quarter who had their final reports due in May asked for an extension. So most of those I think were granted. But we still need a status report. So I have to have something in the file for the end of the fiscal year. So in their cases, they're actually filling out 2 status reports, and then we'll finish with a final report at their new final report date. So keep that in mind as well. Leave plenty of time before those deadlines to get those things done. All right, so state grants do not fall under state procurement. However, we highly encourage you to follow your fiscal agent's procurement policy. And if you don't have a policy, you can look at our website for best practices, and we have a link to procurement there and follow some of the state rules. Mainly that falls into place after $10,000 on the state level. If you more than $10,000, you're going to have to get 3 bids and go down that route. More than a certain level, you have to advertise and document that advertisement. So there are lots of steps that are usually in procurement. Check with your fiscal agent, see if they have a procurement policy, or it might be a good opportunity for your organization, if you don't have one, to write one. And it can be really simple, but it's a great way to make sure that you're being as transparent as possible with these state funds. And getting that last 20%, again, we're going to send you 80% of your total grant up front, because we know we fought very hard for this. This is not normal in state grants. Most state grants are reimbursement grants. So we knew that a lot of these organizations out there are not going to have the cash flow to do these projects. So we fought very hard to be able to send you guys that 80% up front. But that means, pinky swear, I need you guys to fill out these reports because I still have to turn those in. I still have to have that final report. And because of that, we are holding back that last 20% till that completion of the final paperwork is submitted. So think about that when you're doing contracts with those contractual people. Let them know that you have to have everything, maybe that's how you figure out when their deliverables are due. Is figuring out getting that final paperwork submitted to us with all those receipts, and then we'll send you that 20% back as reimbursement for the final 20%. So keep that in mind as you're going. Okay. The only exception to this is if you are a County 250 organizing grant and you have a city or a county as your fiscal agent, we do send you the entire $3,000 up front. However, we still need those reports. So it's really important. Help me out, because we fought hard to get this as a possibility to get that money up front. But it's important to get those reports done.
And Heather, before you leave this slide, we do have one question from Stacy, and she says, did you say the 3 bids requirement is for over 10,000 or 10,000 and up?
So it depends on your, that actually goes back to our procurement question. So it depends on what your fiscal agent's procurement policy is. I gave that as an example. That is state procurement policy, is that more than $10,000, you have to have 3 bids. But if your fiscal agent doesn't require that, or maybe they have a very low threshold, I don't know what your county, a lot of counties follow state procurement rules, but maybe if your fiscal agent is a nonprofit, they have a completely different process. We just want to make sure we're following those procurement policies for your fiscal agents. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, thanks.
Okay, sure. All right. So here's the other good thing. We have, once you've completed this first grant, or maybe your second grant, or whichever grant you're on, you can, of course, apply for another grant program. I will let you know that we are really trying to diversify where these grants are going. So that is a factor as we go forward, trying to make sure the entire state gets some of this funding and gets moving on their projects. However, you are welcome to apply for another grant. And the nice thing about web grants is that you can copy. So if you go to fill out another application, please copy your current application. It saves you time on filling out your cover sheet and you're attaching your support documents. And only thing you really have to update is your narrative and your budget. So that really is helpful when you're going to do a new application. Make sure that you're cloning. We are only going to have 2 grant cycles this fiscal year, which starts July 1. So we're going to have a September 26th deadline and a March 26th deadline. And by the way, I will send you a copy of these slides so you have all these dates in your information in my follow-up email to you guys. Okay. And just lean on us. We want you guys to be successful. We are here to help. It's been wonderful. The commission saw how involved grants are and how important they are. So they spun off and I think that was probably the plan all along, but they spun off this as to the grants manager position, which I am now in. And Amy, yay, has come on to do a lot of the other stuff that I was doing. So we have Amy, we have Mike Tyler, who's our site development manager, as part of our team. And he is working with folks who are looking at spinning up a new site or maybe making repairs to a current American Revolution site. And he'd be glad to assist or give some advice on that as you go. And of course, Molly Fortune is our executive director, and Bill Davies is our vice chair, who's out and about all across the state as he is the County 250 liaison. So if you need any help, please let us know. And we've also come to our end of our first full year of grants, so we need your feedback. I know this is a complicated process with state grants, and it's not an easy one, but anything that we could do to make this a little easier would be very helpful as I go to tweak things before I relaunch all the programs for the new fiscal year. So I welcome feedback from you guys. All right, so I am going to change what I'm sharing here. Let's see if I may have to stop and switch over. Before I go to the demo, does anybody have any questions? All good? All right, I'm doing a great job. What can I say? All right, there you go. All right, let me see if I can escape out of my PowerPoint. And we're going to go into our demo. And again, we're going to demo the contract amendments. We're going to demo the reports. We're going to demo the signing your contract. So let's start with that. And I encourage everybody to make sure that you have this bookmarked. It's scprtgrants.com. And this is...
Hey, we are...
Is there somebody with a question? Okay. Make sure you're muted if you have other folks in your office. So, okay, we have we're sharing our screen here. Make sure you say bookmark this. We have scprtgrants.com. That is a place that you'll come back many times. And so I want to make sure we're signed in here. Amy, maybe you can mute everybody just for a few more minutes and we'll have more question time at the end. Okay, let's go and see what we want to do first. So this is actually my internal one. Let me sign in as my external user, which looks a little bit more like what you guys see. So you have your work assignments on your dashboard. You'll get approaching deadlines will show up here. But most of the time with your grants, you're going to be going down to your grants tab. And we're going to go to our fake, yeah, there's my test county, Baxley County. I had to name it after Charles, of course. Okay, so here we have our grant, and it shows you which funding opportunity it is. It shows the award amount. And right down here, you have your components. So you're going to want to go first when we let you know that your contract is ready, and we'll send you a notification of that. Then you can sign into Web Grants and go to your contract. And right now it's in approved status. That just means it's been approved by the internal users. So anytime you hover over something and it turns green, you can click on it. And over here on your right-hand side should be a button that says signatures. If for any reason you do not see signature button, it may mean that the person who signed in, who needs to be the one signing, is actually not set up. You have to define the roles of each person in the system. So I may need to go in and change your roles. Let me know if there's who will be signing in your in the system. Maybe it's the finance person for the county if they're your fiscal agent. So it could be the fiscal agent who signs, or it can be the program director, as long as it is in consultation with your fiscal agent, because technically they are the grantee as they are receiving the funds. So what I often like to do, if that's the case, if it's not the fiscal agent who is signing, is to go in, and you'll have to scroll down so you see, should be signature line 2. The first one will probably say Molly here. And then you're going to go signed. And I'm going to do Heather Hawkins. And I'm going to do today's date. And I'm going to say in consultation with Baxley County Administrator. There we go. So that documents that you have talked to your fiscal agent. They know that you're signing this agreement. So that's really important. Or you can have them register, and we can make sure that they are in the system and they can get the instructions on how to sign the grant agreement. Again, I have to set their role as the signee for the organization. So let me know if I need to set anybody up that way. So we save our signature. We now have both signatures on this contract, and we can go up here to print at the top. And I usually not just send it to printer. It gets really wonky. I encourage you to go print to PDF. And then once you have a PDF, you can download it or print it from there. And that way, if you want a hard copy of your contract to review or to look over, you can print it before you sign it if you need to if you're one of those like me who likes to write on their contracts as they go. Okay, so that's your first step. You'll be notified that your grant is ready for a contract signature. Then when a couple months later in November, when you get ready to do that first status report, you just come on down this component list and we find our status reports. I'm going to try to set it up so that everybody already has a status report in the system. That way it notifies you when they're due. So if you do have one of those, you just click on it and say edit status report. If you see one in your system, you will not have as many as me. This is my demo one. So you would not have any submitted when you look in for the first time. You can submit multiple status reports though. So if you need to add a status report, you're going to choose semi-annual report. The only other option is final report, and of course you do that at the end. So semi-annual report, and I usually name it like November status update. There we go. And report dates. So this would be those dates, that starting date in your contract. So let's say usually it's going to be the award date, because I will let you know that if you do officially sign the contract, anything that happened from the award date forward money can be spent on those items. So if you entered into a contract with a strategic planner on the 24th, that would be legal to use the funds for, because the start date was the 23rd is an example. So you want to do from that start date, your award date, to the current date. So it'll probably be, everybody's going to wait till the last minute, right? I certainly would. Let's see. There we go. So November 15th. So I'm reporting for this time period. And when you do your next one, or your final report, you will do 11/16 through the end. Or you can do the full amount, doesn't matter. Okay. Then you go down just like with your application. You're looking for check marks here. I'm going to go to status report. And now I'm going to complete my report. This status report is pretty basic. how are you doing on that scope of work? Are you getting close to those deliverables? What steps have you taken so far? How are you going to measure success? Are you documenting? Like, we're super excited. Our first event, we had 100 people. You know, that could be a part of your matrix that you're capturing. See photos below of event. And then success challenges or challenges. This will be difficult to get the community engaged, you know, or saw great success with Facebook ads, you know, whatever the successes or challenges are here. All right, and then there is, once you save the questions, there is now a document section where you can attach documents. They are not required, but this is a great opportunity to, again, if you have copies of a program, if you had an event, if you have pictures of things that you bought for your deliverables, you can go ahead and attach those there. And then you do just like with your application, you have to mark it as complete. It's not gonna let me do it because it's not filled out. So let me go in here and just do test, 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 save the form, mark it as complete. I now have 2 check marks, and I now have a new button that says submit status report. Once you hit this red button, just like when we were doing the application, once you hit that red button, there's no editing. But before that, you can edit whenever you'd like. Or maybe you have your finance person's going to put in the first receipt. So multiple people can come in and work on it. And then when you hit this final submit button, no one else can go into it unless I send it back to you through the negotiation process that we did for some of y'all with the application as well. All right, so that's a status report, the semi-annual report, which will be due in November, but there's also the final report. So let's take a look at that. So we're going to add a status report. Again, I'm going to try to set these up so you just have to find them and click on them, but we're going to go ahead and make a new one. We're going to do May 5. And again, I'm going to do 11, 16. Actually, this is really going to cover events that happen the whole time. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and do 5/23/2023 through 5/15/2024. So I'm covering all that time period in my report. All right. Now there are a couple components here. So we're going to go into our narrative. This is a copy of your narrative from your application. And it will give you some information. As you go to edit this, you'll see there's the gray sections. Those are copied from your application. This is just a helpful reminder that this is what you said your project was about. This impact, expected outcome, this is what you said your deliverables are going to be. So here's where you say, did we reach these deliverables? Now, I will say, again, some of those contracts, things were added to the contract. So make sure you're actually referencing your contract. That's best practice, but this helps you remember what those items probably are. All right, and then were you asked to do a template? If you were, then talk about that, saying this is how we did this history club for kids, and here's how I would duplicate this for others around the state, or see attachment below for advice on starting a history club for kids. And you can also just give basic advice like start early, plan, whatever your advice is for folks out in the community. Measuring success. So these will be defined in that contract. So you want to look at that contract and say, all right, and they're also usually listed in here as well. Success will be measured through. All right, and then we're going to talk about, did we meet those attendance goals that we had? What was our clicks on our website? How was our social media? We had the Fox Carolina came and covered the event, that kind of thing. That will be your measurement of success. And again, we have a gray section here. This is your project detail. This is about promotion. So this is where what you said you were going to do for promotion, and define, did you do all those things, or maybe you came up with something else. Make sure that you are providing pictures. And again, if you do provide those pictures, those do know that those are become the property of SC250 to use for promotional items. So if you have concerns about that, let me know. But that is our standard for when you submit these pictures. Our marketing team keeps saying, don't you have pictures of a grant of events that are going on or grant projects? So that's just to help us do that and continue to remind everyone across the state the good work that you guys are doing on the ground. Then we have our planning and timetable. Again, this is what you submitted in your application. And down here you can say we met all our deadlines, or we had to adjust the auditions because of something happened at where we were going to hold them, but we made the production on time. So any kind of adjustments to the benchmarks and describe any changes there. And then this is a little more than we had originally done in our final report. We did add this section as we get questions about how much of the public are involved and how much impact we're having. So if you can, document who all is attending events, document who is involved with strategic planning, if you can put that, and then you can also do age unknown, but we had 100 people. So, but if you can get some demographics, that's fantastic. If you have any other demographics or any other impact statements that you want to put there, that's where that would go there. Now, once you hit the save form on this one, you now have a bunch of attachments. So let me roll back up. I went too fast. So for each question, there's an opportunity to attach. So with deliverables, we do encourage you to attach photos, a copy of the strategic planning report, anything that goes along, picture of the playbill. If you were doing this play on Miss Doster that I named this play for. Then we have publicity documents. Again, save those tear sheets, take screenshots of social media, add those there, add those photos there. And then you scroll down to the bottom and we have any other attachments. Please keep in mind that your budget receipts will not go in this section. This is all about the deliverables and meeting those goals. So those are just the attachments for that section. Once it is completed and you have all the attachments you want to do, you mark it as complete, and it probably won't let me do that. But once you do complete everything, on this report list up here, it will have that check mark. The next section is expenses. So it's important to keep up with what allocation. Again, if you make a change more than 10% from one section to another, not one line item, but one section to another, if you have more than a 10% change, you do need to get that cleared by us. And this is where you would put in, as you edit this, it allows you to put in what you actually spent and what you have receipts for. And you can include that there. You want it to add up to your total amount. And again, that last 20% will come once this final report is submitted. Let's see. Sometimes I think I've gotten it too big. Let me see if I have to make it a little smaller. There we go. So then we would save our expenses. And if match is not required, do not worry about the match section. But if it is required, you do want to document those match expenses as well. And then the final section is the attachments for the financial receipts. So the expenses tab is the overview, and the financial documentation is the last section. You do have to attach those receipts, copies of those receipts, and have those match up to the expenses you talked about on this tab. So a little bit more to the final report, but it's really important for the state to know that the money's being handled appropriately. And unfortunately, there have been some bad folks out there in the past who've worked the rules, and we want to make sure that we're documenting that you guys are doing awesome and be able to brag on all the things that are getting accomplished. So once you have all the check marks here, you would have a new button to submit it. And just like before, once you get the pop-up with the red button to submit, there's no more editing at that point. So this would be due for most of you on May 15th of 2024. All right. And the last section I do want to talk about is your contract amendments. Again, if you are needing to make a change, either in the budget or the scope of work, or usually it's the timeline, then you can add an amendment. You can choose which type of revision you're looking for. All right, so need to extend deadline to November 2024. So that's your title. Once again, you come down to your next form, you fill out, and this is one box, so just why are you needing this extension? So you would say that production was delayed from the vendor, and then save the form, mark it as complete, submit your amendment. Again, these do have to be approved by our executive director. And please do them in advance of your status report deadlines so that we can make sure we are documenting this. And we do ask that you still submit a status report, not a final report, but a status report if you're getting an extension, so that we can have that documented along with your contract amendment in the file. For God forbid, hopefully we won't get audited. So, but we want to make sure that everything's there. All right, I think that is all on my demo. Does anybody have any questions? Wow, okay, I'm either really good at my job or this is the most boring thing in the whole wide world.
I do have one quick question to make sure I understood you right.
Yes,
If
ma'am.
it's your organizing grant, you do get the 100% up front. You don't get the 80-20. Was that correct?
If it's an organizing grant and your fiscal agent is a municipality or a county.
Correct.
So, yes, so you're in Georgetown?
Allendale.
Allendale, I'm so sorry. Yeah, so and Allendale is your fiscal agent, correct? So the county.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so you would get the full $3,000 for that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. That was my question.
Sure.
And Sharon had a question in the chat. She said, did you say when the agreements will be sent?
So we don't have a deadline for that, unfortunately. I'm being held hostage by the time of too many projects, and our chairman and executive team have been out on the road, but they do need time to look at those and make sure they're comfortable with those contracts and sign on their end before I send them to you. So I will send you a notification when those contracts are ready.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm Juliet. I am from Georgetown County, and I
Yes.
came in a little late because I was being pulled into something else. Question is, so that we just have the organizing $3,000 grant. We will get the money up front. Is that correct?
Yes, so as a county 250 organizing grant, and as the municipality or a county government entity, you would receive the full 100% upfront. You still have to fill out reports and still have to save all your receipts.
Of course.
Please, because I had to work really hard to get them to agree to be able to do that upfront as opposed to reimbursement.
So my question is, can we start spending that money even though we have not received the full grant, the official grant yet?
You will have to officially sign the contract, but again, if you look at the date on your grant award letter,
Yes.
if you do officially sign that contract eventually, then anything that happens after that award letter is eligible for using those funds on. Anything before that is not, but anything from the award letter can be, your money can be spent on those things.
That's perfect. And we probably don't expect that money to come in quite yet anyway, correct?
Right. So hopefully everybody sent me their state vendor number, or that was on their application, or they've sent it to me since then. And then if you have direct deposit, most counties do have direct deposit already set up. So that helps it go a little faster. I will say it's the end of the fiscal year and it's going to be a crunch for everybody. So it may have to be after July 1, if depending on how fast these contracts come to you guys.
That's
So,
fine.
but usually it takes about a month after the contract is submitted for things to come to you. A little bit faster if you have direct deposit.
Okay, sounds good.
And I can send you all the link if you're not set up for direct deposit. I can send you some of the other folks. If you would like direct deposit, I can send you the link to the treasurer's office where you set that up.
I am set up with direct deposit. So I should be okay. That's fine. And the first report is due
November 15th, and I'm going to send a follow-up email to everybody, and you'll have a copy link. It's going to be a few minutes because I want to make sure this will have to download. I want to have this recording link available for you. And if you need to share it with anyone, I'll also have those dates in there and a copy of the PowerPoint so that you have all that information on if you want to review it.
Perfect. I think we'll be good. Thank you.
Great, guys. Well,
Okay.
I'm excited about all the projects. Are y'all excited about the projects?
Very.
Yes, ma'am.
Very much so.
We're very glad. Good luck. Again, make sure that you reach out if you need any assistance. I see Doug McIntyre on there. If you're in the Low Country, say hello to Doug, and he'll be glad to help you as well if you have questions and help facilitate any help that you need on things. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You.